everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Dene Maria Sebastiana. He's a master coach, facilitator, author, and a teacher. Today, we will talk about one of his books, Fierce and Tender, Healing the Deep Masculine. But he also wrote another book titled Fierce and Tender, Healing the Deep Masculine in Men and Women. So his mission is to be a rigorous space of awakening inquiry, bringing the truth and sacred into conscious action, especially for men. So this is my brief introduction to you, Dene. In your own words, how would you describe you today, like in this moment? Who are you?
Well, I'm an elder. I am a man who has worked on himself for many, many years. I'm a seeker. I'm a mystic. I follow the path of spirit and soul and it's taken me many, many years to really be able to say this out loud. I follow where spirit and soul invite me to go. I found men's work when I was 40, so I've been in this work for a long time. My practical work is to help men awaken to their hearts, to their soul, to their spirit, to their emotional bodies particularly, because in my culture, men have not been allowed a full range of emotional expression. So, we say we always teach what we need to learn. I have opened my emotional body and have given myself permission to feel everything, including the depth of my sorrow, the depth of my grief, the ache that's in my heart. And the more I let that happen, the more joy that I feel in my life. My life is in a good place. My beloved and I are extraordinarily well connected, and I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, thank you. What's not to love about that? All that. Truth and sacredness. Yeah. So when you speak about the beloved, do you relate to the idea of God in the same way that you relate to the heart, to the soul, the spirit? Are they all one and the same or somehow different?
I think so. It's hard to know what we cannot possibly know. I was brought up Christian. My boyfriends in middle school were Jewish, so I got to spend time in both synagogues and Protestant and Catholic. My grandparents were Roman Catholic. I've studied Buddhism. I ascribe to no religion. Every religion, I think, begins with an awakening, and then they wrap a church of some sort around it, and it kind of loses its essence. I believe in the spirit world. I believe in the soul world. I believe that the universe is ruled by love and light. Is there a God that points its finger and touches my head and says, "This is what you should or shouldn't do"? No, I don't believe that. I think God, God hides from us in the place that at least men would probably look last. And that's in the heart. When we open our heart and we feel love, that's where God lives. In my body, in my belief, God lives in the heart.
Yes. What is not to love about that too? Yes. Although I do embrace, I love that you said, that's in your book. You mentioned, you talk about the medicine men and how they embrace everything. They don't really hide or try to be good or try one thing or another, take one side or another. It's always dancing within all the worlds, both worlds or all worlds that exist. Beautiful. So your book, Fierce and Tender, Healing the Deep Masculine. So what happened to men? How did they come to this place of disconnection? And you stayed there for so long. Talk to me for a moment about the history.
Yes. The ancients, the indigenous people, knew that in order for a boy to become a man, he needed to go through a rite of passage. Girls, their bodies offer them the rite of passage.
Yeah.
To make the transition from being a girl to being a woman. Their body tells them, this is what's happening here. Your body is now showing that you are a woman. The same thing does not happen for boys.
Yeah.
So in ancient cultures, the boys would typically sleep with the mothers in the longhouse. And once or twice a year, when the men in the culture saw that there were a number of boys making the transition, becoming 11, 12, 13, their bodies were beginning to change. Once or twice a year, they'd go in the middle of the night with the dogs barking and the rattles and the drums and everything happening, and they would take the boys by their hair and take them out of the bed with the mother out into the wilderness. The mothers would yell and scream and say, don't take my baby.
Yeah.
But they were complicitous because they knew that the boys needed to be removed to go out into the shadows, into the darkness with the men. The fathers, the grandfathers, the uncles, the cousins, the big brothers. And in that isolated space, they would teach the boys the mythology of the tribe, the rules of engagement, how to be a good citizen, what roles to play, what skills to develop. They taught them that.
Yeah.
What to do with their bodies, what to do with that thing between their legs, how to be in right relationship to women and the feminine. In the Hopi culture, that boy did not see a female for 1 year.
Oh, wow.
Did not see the female for 1 year.
Yeah.
And after that period of time was over, when they came back into the village, the mothers would grieve the loss of the boy and welcome the return of the man.
Mm.
In the 1700s, with the Industrial Revolution and the dissolution of tribes and the collapsing of farms, men came into the cities to get jobs, to work, to support their families. Initiation, sacred initiation, and rites of passage for young boys stopped.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's now 300 years later. Uninitiated men, uninitiated boys have no place. They look for initiation in gangs. They look for initiation in sports. They even look for initiation in the corporate world because we have an innate need to belong and connect, but none of them are conscious.
Mm.
And none of them consider the teaching that young boys need to learn, particularly sexual teaching, that they don't learn. So a young boy is unlearned in the sacredness of sexuality. The testosterone pumps through the body, and the boy has no instruction as to what to do with it. So uninitiated boys become uninitiated men. They have uninitiated boys as sons, and the uninitiated men that rule the world are in very damaged space psychically because they have not been initiated into a true deep masculine. So the entity, the organization that I have been affiliated with for many, many years was initially called the New Warrior Network. It's now called the Mankind Project.
Yeah.
And we discovered real early on that the training that we were offering was actually initiatory in its sacred intention. We did not know that when we developed it, but it became an initiatory rite of passage. So for the last 35, almost close to 40 years, we've been doing our best, little by little, one by one, community by community, to begin to initiate men and initiate boys. Yeah. We've tried to reclaim the sacred masculine because that's what happens when initiation. We get connected to the sacred and the reason that we're alive in this body. Men are beginning to find that space through initiation, training, and action in the world. And that's what my work is, helping men to rediscover the sacred that's alive in them and has always been there, but we've forgotten it.
So is there Is there any age, men at any age can be initiated, or is there a point where it's too late?
No. Well, that's a great question. I don't think it's ever too late to awaken.
Yeah.
Whatever state or stage we find ourselves in, if we connect to the sacred and we allow our hearts to open, our life is going to be better from there forward. But right now, at the eldership of part of my life that I'm in, I'm turning towards younger men.
Yeah.
Young men in their late 20s, in their 30s, in their early 40s, men that are struggling in new parenthood, struggling in marriage, struggling in porn addiction or subsequent addictions, struggling to find a purpose. Maybe they were brought up by single mothers and they really have not seen any good male role models, because this culture doesn't offer good male role models. We see mostly fierce men.
Yeah, true.
And every once in a while, tender men, but we do not see fierce and tender men.
Yeah.
Fierce and tender is a paradox. That's what I love about that topic. And it came to me in a dream.
Yeah.
And to me, it embodies the fierceness is the masculine energy in the world, and the tenderness is the feminine energy in the world. And putting those two pieces together allow a man to be integrated. That he doesn't have to give up the fierceness of the masculine to be nice, to be kind, although he should be those things, but he gives up his power and his capacity to have good boundaries. A man needs both masculine and feminine in his life to function well.
Right. It comes to me, well, the message is it's harmony, so balance, harmony, which we see that in nature. Everything seeks harmony, it seeks connection, which is exactly the work that you're doing. But it's interesting to see that in nature it happens automatically, like the plants will just find its way, nature itself will find its way back to harmony. But humans, we have lost the way and we need help. Isn't it interesting? We need guidance to find our own selves, which is a fascinating phenomenon. It's to me.
Yes.
And would you say that some people, let's focus on men. So some men can actually self-initiate. Is that possible? And how would that happen?
Well, there are a lot of initiatory rites of passage that are going on in the world, not only through the trainings like we do, but there's a lot of plant medicine. There's a lot of work with plant medicine.
Yeah.
And the ancients, believe that, nature gives us everything we need. For every illness and malady that we have, there's a solution on the planet. And if you just work hard enough to find it, you will find it.
Right.
I've long believed, and I came of age in the 60s. LSD was one of my first real teachers.
Yeah.
And I've done plant medicine throughout the course of my life. Difficult, challenging, painful, terrifying, and glorious. There are a lot of initiatory experiences happening with medicine.
Yeah.
Plant medicine. I think we need, more than my individual journey. I think we need to be in community.
Yeah.
And a medicine journey is usually taken solo with a group of people, and maybe there's some conversation, but the test that happens, the integration that happens, needs to be done in community.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're in the beginning stages of reclaiming initiatory rites of passage. I'm not sure I'll see them offered in my lifetime. But, I feel like I'm a bridge. I'm a plank on the bridge, and all I can do is my work, and whatever follows is going to follow.
Yeah.
So the answer to your question is no, I do not think men can self-initiate.
Yeah.
The ego is too strong and powerful, and it protects against what initiation puts upon us.
Yes. And speaking of the ego, you did say that in your book, because then in the end, gosh, you say so many amazing things. You say the ego can never be defeated, but it can be trained. So that caught my attention, this phrase. And it's similar to the body, isn't it? Then the body, it feels to me like the anchor of the ego. It's always demanding something. And, water, food, and you see some yogis that don't eat, they kind of train the body so much, the ego part of their identity, that they don't need food anymore. The body kind of adapts to some form of energetic exchange. I don't know what that is, but consciousness. It's just such an amazing thing that they don't eat. There was one that I heard he had not eaten for years, 50 years. Yes. Hard to believe, yes. But I do believe that it's possible.
Yes.
So when it comes to the dance with the ego, what is the best way to know when a man, for example, when they are embodying the sacred masculine? What are some of the signs? Yeah.
Good. Okay. Let's talk about the ego for a moment, Valeria.
Yeah.
It's believed that the ego takes root in us somewhere between the ages of 2 and 4. That it is the mask that we put on. It is the armor that we put on. Why would we be so young and have to do that?
Yeah.
It's because we've been wounded in our childhood. And I've come to believe that we believe that all families should love their children. And we're lucky if we come to a family that really indeed loves us. But we do know that every family wounds us.
Right.
We're given a wound whether we like it or not.
Right.
We can't escape that. And I've wondered, why is that? Why would soul, why would spirit ensure that we get wounded? I think it's because it puts a pattern, it plants a seed. The soul plants a seed in our body through that wound, that we're always looking to get that deep unmet need met. Mm. The wound is always, I'm not getting something that I desperately need to have. Mm. The ego then comes on to protect the pain of that unmet need. The ego's primary function is to protect and defend against pain and discomfort.
Yeah.
So we put on a mask, we put on the armor. By the time a boy is 8 years old, he's out in the world and he's got fully armored, he's got that face mask on, and he's dancing with other boys. We're trained in competition. We're trained to not be vulnerable. We're trained in all the ways that the man box defines us. And the ego is the prime mover on that. It's about power. It's about control. It's about domination. It's about violence. It's about being tough and hard and armored. All the things that are anti-life.
Yeah.
All the things that are anti-feminine. We're trained that way, and the ego dominates those conversations. Yeah. It's always about self-aggrandizement and protection, and the ego hides us from our shadows.
Yeah.
The shadows live in each one of us. Jung said the shadow is the place that we have not yet brought light to. The ego keeps those wounded, painful places hidden, and the ego dons a dance, a persona, a way of being in the world that says, I am okay, I'm strong, I'm tough, at the expense of the heart. When the ego rules, the heart steps into second place. In order for the heart to awaken and let it live a man's life, the ego is going to have to take a hit. And men don't like that.
Yes. Seems like humans don't like that, yeah, in general.
Humans don't like that. Well, yes. I speak about men mostly, but, I've done a considerable amount of work around women. Women struggle also. Yeah. But this patriarchal time that we're in, that seems to be coming to a close, and it's going to take a lot of damage with it before it dies, I believe. Yeah. It's patriarchy is the rule of the male.
Yeah.
There was a matriarchal time where the female ruled. There's a patriarchal time. It's going out. I don't think it's going to be replaced by a matriarchal time. But I think that we need to give women a chance, give the feminine a chance to make the decisions on behalf of the planet. Because I think they'll make a whole lot better decisions than we men have done.
Wow.
So one more piece while we're here. This new Desert Wisdom project that I'm working on is to help men make a direct connection to the feminine.
Yeah.
And in order for that to happen, we've got to look at our relationships with our mothers.
Yeah.
And men's work is good about helping us find relationships with our fathers and doing that healing and that masculine lineage. But men's work has not yet, until now, reached across that gap and said, we need to look at our relationship with our mothers too, because she plays a much bigger role in our lives than we can even imagine.
Yes. I love I love everything about you, your work, your vision. I mean, what's not to love about it?
Thank you.
And when you talk about the integration, that makes sense to me. It resonates true that we need to come to a place of that integration. Men be in touch with the feminine, healing the feminine in them, so they come from the heart. They are coming from love. And in that place, they'll make beautiful decisions too. So we women don't have to make the decisions for the world or for them. I really believe that it's working together, right, Dene? It's working together, isn't it? It's coming together, and yes. Instead of arguing, just having conversations, deep ones. It's really, that to me, that's the vision. If we can get to a place of harmony, that would be that place.
Yes. Well, let me hold on to that for a moment.
Yeah.
We need to talk to each other from the heart, not from the head.
Yeah.
Women are much more willing to talk from the heart. Men don't know how to talk from the heart.
Yeah.
So I think, you're emotionally one step ahead of us, but I don't think women can rule the planet without the support of men. And I think, we need a new kind of masculine on the planet. A masculine that is not only fierce and clear about his masculine creativity and energy, but there's a tenderness in the heart. There's an emotional capacity for him to speak to the feminine and with the feminine in a whole new way.
Yes.
Because God knows men need to change their relationships to the feminine.
Yes. I mentioned off record that I was reading your book, and then I talked to my husband about it. And then I mentioned something that you said about working with men, and then they would say something like, I'm paraphrasing you, I'm afraid if I cry, I would just never stop. And then he started crying, and then I started crying. I'm like, oh my God, it's in all of us. And then you said, awesome.
If I open my anger, I will kill somebody.
Yes.
And I want to say to men hearing this, and the circles that we offer to men allow a man on either side of that equation to come into a safe space.
Yeah.
A man can come and safely let himself rage, and we will hold that space for him until that rage gives way to the pain that's underneath that. And men can cry and cry and cry until that water finds a flow out of the body. Our circles have that capacity to hold both of those for men.
Yes. And the question that came to mind earlier, and he's still here, and I'll ask you, is there a place within the human experience besides healing, doing the deep work of going into that pain and releasing what is there. So besides that, is there a place for violence and aggression? What would be the purpose of violence and aggression, or even fear and hatred and all that?
No one has ever asked me that. It must have a purpose.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we have the luxury of letting it go unbridled. Is violence necessary? Well, it's violence when we kill animals to eat.
Right.
Am I suggesting that everybody becomes vegan? Well, no, I'm not. God has put everything out here for man's consumption. I think one thing the native peoples, the indigenous peoples knew was how to be in right relationship to nature and all of its functionality. They went on the hunt. They killed animals. They did what they did to feed each other. I think unbridled rage, unbridled violence. You look at the wars that are happening, we have the capacity to annihilate the whole species.
Yes.
If we don't put some guidelines and boundaries around how much violence is allowed, and I don't see them doing that, Valeria. Honestly,
right.
I don't see them putting bridles around it. There's still 2 major wars happening on the planet as we speak. They're killing hundreds of thousands of people, children, women and children, without any hesitation.
Right.
So I don't know the answer to the question. My instinct and my gut says no. I don't think there's a right place for violence and rage and anger like that. I think that comes out of some wounded place. Wounded men do wounding things. You heal the wounds, will heal the behavior that comes out of those wounds that have just caused such damage that we project that damage onto others.
Yes. I love the email that you sent it to me. I mean, we have been talking about this, but you said men are in serious trouble for lots of reasons. Our health numbers are dropping. Our suicide numbers are rising. Men still wage war. We are addicted. We are dysfunctional in our relationships, especially with women. So where do you see men this time, in this moment? Are we evolving or getting to this place that you are beautifully paint? I mean, I love that big picture. Yeah, I would love to know where we are now. Do you have any feelings about it?
I don't really want to say this, but I think we're still quite a ways away.
Yeah.
It feels like, politically what we see not only in American culture, but in other cultures, there's a distinct movement to right-wing decision-making, autocratic, dictatorial, controlling. I want to believe, Valeria, and I'm a big believer in astrological stages and the movement of behaviors on the planet governed by planets and stars and whatever. I believe in that. You may call me woo-woo, but I believe in it anyway. I think we are coming to the end of the Piscean age where war and suffering dominated the planet for the last couple of thousand years. I think that time is coming to a close. My astrologer friend that said that Aquarius anchored in 2023. It took anchor on the planet. Means it's here to stay, and it's only a matter of time before one passes out and the other moves in. Will we survive long enough to experience that transition where we enter the age of Aquarius and things begin to change? We see pockets of it. We see tremendous light. Like you and I are sitting here having this conversation. It's going to broadcast to however many people. It's going to affect some. It's not going to affect many. But what we're doing here, they're doing all over the planet these days. In every culture, in every language, these kinds of conversations are being held. And little by little, we are awakening And, I like to say that, all the darkness in the universe cannot squelch the light of one tiny little candle.
Mm.
So it's important that we hold that candle and we hold that flame with great care and keep the heart light lit as much as possible wherever we go. Mm. It's a matter of time now, and I don't have a crystal ball, so I have no idea. But I remain faithful. I'm not hopeful. I don't use that word anymore. I maintain faith in the goodness of the human heart, that we will find our way through this darkness. I pray.
Yes. Yes. What's not to love again about everything you say is just so, it's the wisdom of the heart. Really, it's so clear to me that you embody that. What is the role of women in the evolution of the sacred masculine? I think women would love to hear that.
Yeah. Kick our ass.
Okay, that's easy.
Keep speaking the heart's truth. Mm. Keep having the voice. For a long time, I believe that the males have a wound in the heart chakra, and females have a wound in the throat chakra. Mm. This has been turned off in men, and this has been turned off in women. So when the women's movement came on back in the 60s and through the last 60, 70 years, particularly with the Me Too movement, when the Me Too movement happened, I said, it's about goddamn time that women began to speak about what we've all known has been true. It did not reveal anything that we did not already know. We did not know to the extent of what was happening. And finally, when one woman said, that happened to me, and the next woman said, me too, and me too, and me too, we realized the depth of that wound and that shadow on this planet. Yeah. So women have already spoken the truth. Keep speaking to power. Don't let power frighten you into your silence. Mm. Speak to men. Mm. Call them out on it. I have been shameless over the years, Valeria, in asking women to get the men to come to our trainings. And a lot of men show up, and the first thing they say is, my wife made sure that I was coming, or else she wouldn't kiss me or have sex with me anymore. Yeah. Speak to power. Yeah. Because underneath the power is great fear. Mm. It's not the voice of the masculine, the violent, controlling voice of the masculine is not powerful in its nature. It's weak because it comes from fear. Mm. Yeah. It doesn't come from love. Love, I believe in my heart and soul, is always stronger than fear. Mm. So women, please, and I've been playing this tune. There's a black blues musician called Keb Mo, and he sang a tune called "Put a Woman in Charge." Mm. It's a marvelous tune. Yeah, and I think it's time. There are women. We haven't yet found a woman president, but we will one of these days. Yeah. Because if women make decisions different than men make decisions. Men make decisions from here. Right. Women make decisions from here and from here and from here. There's a great more wisdom when the whole body is involved in making a decision than when only this is involved. Yes. So going back to, God, so many, I put hearts everywhere here where I found to be some of the things that you said. So amazing. I love the YouTube video too. I want to mention that. So Talk Story, Dene Maria Sebastiana. I have the link, so that will be on the podcast notes too. I have heard that somebody saying that before we go, lose the body, leave the body, it's very important to use our own lives as a guiding tool, as a pointer to truth. And that's what you've been doing. You've done beautifully. And it's just clearly to me. And I love that video too. It made me cry in the end. That was from the San Miguel Writers Conference? Yes. Yeah. Storytelling? Good. That's a great piece. Good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Wow, thank you for that. And I'll share that on my channels. So then going back to something else you say, you talk about questions. So one day, the man arrives at a personal crossroad. So this is just, I'm kind of synthesizing what you said, a place where circumstances force him to consider these questions. And the questions were, who am I as a human? Who am I as a man, as a human? What am I called to do with this life? Those two questions. So the crossroad will be a place of drug addiction, a personal illness. You go on and on, kind of giving examples of what we can go through in order to awaken, in order to realize truth. And that, reading that kind of, the question that I ask here to so many of my guests, do we need suffering? Do we need pain in order to uncover the truth of what we are? Not even who we are, but what we are.
I think it is. I mean, I had a teacher many years ago. I began to read the works of two Russian mystics and philosophers, Gurdjieff and Ouspensky. And Gurdjieff talked about friction. He was a trickster, and he gave his students difficult, challenging circumstances to figure out how to stay awake and aware inside friction experiences. Mm-hmm. And I remember him saying that friction is the rubbing up of two bodies against each other, which conflict is friction. He said, with enough friction, we can burst it into heat and light.
Yeah.
I come to think that on this planet, in these dimensions, in this embodiment, that suffering is unavoidable. Now, the Buddhists say that suffering comes from attachment. That when I'm attached, I'm going to suffer because I'm not going to get what I'm so much do I crave.
Right.
And they will keep coming back lifetime after lifetime until all beings are awakened. For now, in these bodies and with this consciousness, I think suffering is inevitable. But what I'm learning is that in my suffering, there's a lesson. There's a learning. We tend to want to run away from pain and the discomfort and suffering. Exactly that. The ego does its job. It protects and defends and pushes away and denies, and pretends that we don't feel heartache and heartbreak.
Yeah.
I come to ask a man, one of the first questions I ask a man is, tell me what broke your heart.
Yeah.
And it's a shocking question. Most men are like, are you kidding me? Why would you ask me a question like that? So to answer your question, I think suffering for now is a part of our human experience, and it is a doorway. It is a doorway. If I can see deeper into what it is that I'm suffering about,
yes,
and address that, what's underneath my suffering, instead of running away from my pain, ask, what is this pain about? Where am I hurting? When we start asking those kinds of questions, we drop into the work. We stop running away from pain, but we turn towards the pain. Then that man has taken a path down through that crossroad, down into the working part of his life.
Yes. And you do say beautifully too, you say, if a man says yes to this call, his life will never be the same. If he says no, his life will always be the same.
Always be the same. That's right.
Yeah. So true. I wonder if what freedom is. Once we have had that insight, we have gone deep enough to know what we are, not who we are. Actually, the more I get to know what I am, the less I know who I am. The truth is, I have no idea who I am. Yes. So is that what you call freedom? Then would that be finally liberation, or there's something else?
I've thought, and I'm, kind of pondering it and kind of feeling in my body whether I still believe it, that a man seeks freedom as his primary need.
Yeah.
And I think we misconstrue and misunderstand what freedom is. Many men think that freedom means I am unburdened and free to do whatever I want to do. And I don't think that is what freedom is. Freedom and responsibility go hand in hand. I am free to choose, but that I choose, that I take responsibility for the decisions and the choices that I make in my life. That responsibility comes along with freedom.
Yeah.
To imagine that we're free to do whatever we want, that's an illusion, and that's a misunderstanding of freedom, because we don't get to do whatever we want. If everybody was running around with that sense of freedom, doing whatever they wanted, the world would be just like it is.
Yes. That's what there has been my own journey because I had a glimpse of that freedom of what I am. I don't even have words to say. The closest I can get is love, unconditional love. But then there's a combination of both when I try to embody it, because then there's no judgment there. I can't judge other people about what they're doing. People killing one another, the violence, as you mentioned, the war. There's something that stops me from separating myself from everything else. I think that's what it is. And then I feel like completely one with whatever is here, as it is, exactly as it is. So it's kind of paradoxical in a way, isn't it?
Yes. This is non-rational. Non-rational. We can't understand it in rational terms.
No. Yeah.
There's also a piece of me, I think, that whatever I have a reaction to in the world, whatever I judge, it means that whatever that I'm judging is alive in me in some unintegrated, unconscious way. So can I accept without judgment what is happening in the Gaza? Can I accept without judgment what is happening in the Ukraine? Can I accept what is happening in the politics of the United States of America? It's hard. I want to judge it. I want to judge it as right or wrong or good or bad. And, my unconsciousness is part of that and contributes to that in some way as well. The natives said, you can't judge a man until you've walked a mile in his moccasins. And that's a beautiful piece of truth that I try real hard to remember, and I continue to forget. I still judge. Unfortunately, I still judge.
It seems like it comes from you speak of the ego. That might be what it's coming from, the sense of being separate from the whole. So once we separate ourselves from the whole, then all kinds of, silly things will happen, right? From the
dangerous things too.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Once we separate. Yes, and that's why this work is so important for me with men, is to help them identify the part in them that was wounded such that they shut their heart down.
Yeah.
Because when the heart is closed, the ego is in charge. When the heart opens, the ego struggles with that, because the ego doesn't want a man to go here and feel all the pain that he hasn't been able to feel his whole life. The ego protects against that at all costs.
Right.
Because when the heart opens and breaks open, and the rage and the grief flush out of the heart, and the heart's now alive and refreshed, the ego's job changes.
Yes.
And, like I said to you earlier, we can train the ego.
Yeah.
And the ego will follow. But the heart, I think the journey for me is to transcend the ego such that my heart makes most of the decisions in my life. And that's been a painful journey.
I can imagine. Yeah, you too. So we're almost at the end, but I want to mention at the end of your book, you mentioned The Blood of Eden. I think that's a poem by Peter Gabriel, I believe.
Peter Gabriel.
Oh, that's beautiful. I would love for you to read that. Is that possible? Do you have the book in front of you?
I do. Actually.
Oh my God. I would love for you to read.
Okay. So this is The Blood of Eden by Peter Gabriel.
Yes.
I caught sight of my reflection. I caught it in the window. I saw the darkness in my heart. I saw the signs of my undoing. They had been there from the start, and the darkness still has work to do. The knotted cords untying, the heated and the holy. Oh, they're sitting there on high, so secure with everything they're buying. My grip is surely slipping. I think I've lost my hold. Yes, I think I've lost my hold. I cannot get insurance anymore. They don't take credit, only gold. Is that a dagger or a crucifix I see you hold so tightly in your hand? And all the while the distance grows between you and me, I do not understand. At my request, you take me in that tenderness I am floating away. No certainty, nothing to rely on, holding still for a moment. What a moment this is. Oh, for a moment of forgetting, a moment of bliss. Oh, I can hear the distant thunder of a million unheard souls, of a million unheard souls. Watch each one reach for creature comfort, for the filling of their holes. In the blood of Eden lie the woman and the man. I feel the man in the woman and the woman in the man. In the blood of Eden lie the woman and the man. I feel the man in the woman and the woman in the man. Peter Gabriel.
Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. I was not familiar with, I'm familiar with him, but not this song. So it's just amazing how you find whatever embodies somehow the picture of that we see that we cannot express really with words. So I see in your book, you found so many ways of expressing that, with, of course, throughout your whole life, but you have these quotes and you have these other people in music. I mean, how beautiful. Thank you so much again for being here, for being open to life.
Thank you so much. Blessings.
So I have those two websites that will be here on the podcast notes, and I have Dene's bio too. And is there anything else that you left unsaid for today, Dene? Anything that you'd like to add?
I would just ask men to open their hearts. Their life will never be the same if you open your heart. It's doable. Yes. And come to a men's circle. Find a men's circle in your location.
Yeah.
They're happening all over the planet. Come to a men's circle. Awaken your body.
Yes. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Bye for now, Dene.